Okay, since we are 10 minutes past, I suggest then we start. For the panelists, can you please confirm you can see the slides in full screen mode?
Yes.
Yes, magnifique.
We can. Yeah.
Okay, great. Again, good morning from me. My name is Maria Vittoria Dinzeo. I work for the European Commission, DG DEFIS, in charge of defense industry and space, more specifically Unit B2, dealing with innovation, new space, space defense. I am following since the beginning, actually, the in-orbit demonstration and validation initiative that is part of the Horizon program. So thank you for my co-panelists. So today I'm together with my colleagues from the European Commission and obviously with our colleagues from European Space Agency that will also make a presentation after this after presentation that we will do. So just first of all, as I said also at the beginning, the meeting, this webinar is being recorded so that afterwards we can publish it online, and it will also be made available to all the colleagues that could not attend this info session. So the way we are going to organize the meeting is the webinar, sorry, is first we will start with the presentation that Roman and myself will do on the open polls for expression of interest. And later we will pass the floor to our colleagues from the European Space Agency that will be able to present the procurement actions for IOD, IOV that are currently ongoing, including presentation on the flight tickets initiative. So maybe I will. I can start already with this presentation. So we will share the presentation between myself and Romain. I don't know, Romain, would you like to maybe do a quick introduction, and then we can start with the presentation?
Yes, hello, good morning, Romain Lézier. I'm working with Mavi on the IOD initiative, so in same unit, so RNI.
Okay, excellent. So obviously there will be also a dedicated Q&A session at the end of each presentation. So please feel free to put any questions you have in the chat box, in the Q&A box, and we will take them after the presentation. Okay, so let's see. Voila. Okay, so just to give an overview, as I just said, of the IOD IOV service. It's a union program that allows new technology to be tested in orbit by providing a set of services, namely aggregation on a carrier if needed, launch services, and operation. The IOD IOV service is broadly open to experiment providers coming from academia, research organization, SMEs, large industrial companies, space agencies, and all type of entities, actually. The way in which we define the experiments that need these IOD IOV services are in two categories, let's say. We have experiments that need aggregation, that are defined as innovative technologies, products, concept, architecture, and operation techniques that require in-orbit demonstration validation. And experiments may be instruments, equipment, technologies, system experiments, mission, payloads, etc. And as said, the experiments will be aggregated on a carrier, either a dedicated platform or a rideshare platform. The other way in which we categorize the IOD experiments is in the form of ready-to-fly satellites, which are really satellites with a payload or a set of payloads that include innovative technologies, products, concept architecture, and operation technique that do still require in-orbit demonstration and validation. So what are the overall expected benefits of the IOD-IOV service is for sure to support the global competitiveness of our European space sector, allowing innovative technology to be effectively tested in orbit and thereby reducing time to market. Another indeed benefit of IOD-IOV service is the reduction of EU non-dependence. Why? Because we indeed, by providing this service, we are relying on EU solution, both for the spacecraft and for the launch services. Don't worry if you don't understand. We will delve into this further in the presentation. Again, another important aspect and benefit of the IOD-IOV service is the fostering of development of skills and talents, because we provide generation of European engineers with hands-on experience in real-world space program. In fact, we've had many experiments that were provided by academia and by groups of students, which is again goes into the skills and talents dimension. And finally, another important benefits, the development of new commercial entrants on space tech startups and SMEs for the technology development, as well as satellite manufacturing and space transportation solutions. So as I said, the range of services that we provide as part of IOD-IOV initiative are essentially three. First service is the aggregation for the experiment that need indeed to be aggregated on a spacecraft. As said, could be either dedicated aggregated mission or which really yes, basically regroups a number of experiments on a dedicated platform, or it could be an experiment aggregated on a rideshare mission. The second service is the launch services, both for the aggregated mission and for the ready-to-fly satellites, which all launch services are implemented through the Commission and ESA European Flight Ticket Initiative that we will see at a later stage. Third service that we offer is operation, up to 1 year of operation for the aggregated IOD-IOV mission. So just important aspect that the implementation of all procurement activities is entrusted to ESA on our behalf, and which is why, in fact, after this presentation, a dedicated one will follow from our ESA colleague on procurement activities. So the European Flight Ticket Initiative is an important initiative that we are setting up, that we have set up with the European Space Agency, and we are jointly implemented it. And the main objective of the Flight Ticket Initiative is to stimulate new European space transportation solutions through open competition for the procurement of launch services, provide regular opportunities of affordable and responsive launch services for European ready-to-fly satellites, and provide regular opportunities of affordable and responsive solution for all other EU IOD-IOV mission and possibly other institutional mission. So all procurement actions for launch services is implemented through this initiative. And my colleague later will present it more into details, but just as an introductory remark, we have set up a Flight Ticket Initiative. It's already up and running. And in fact, we have already signed frame contract with the companies that you see listed here: Arianespace, CISAR, Aerospace, Orbex, RFA, and PLD Space. And again, we will rely on solutions offered by these launch service provider for the procurement of launch services. So why am I saying that? I'm saying this because it is important for the experiment providers to be compliant and be in line with the services and configuration and interfaces offered by the solutions from these launch service providers. And the European Flight Ticket Initiative is also co-funded through the Horizon Europe program for the IOD, the union part, and as well from the ESA Boost program. So now let's look into the specificities of the call. As mentioned, we have, and as I hope many of you understand and know, we have two parallel calls for expression of interest that will allow us to pre-select IOD, IOV experiments that need to be aggregated and ready to fly IOD, IOV satellites. These calls for expression of interest were published already last year and are open until the 15 March 2026. As you can see, we have regular cutoff dates. Two cutoff dates have already closed. The upcoming cutoff dates is on 2nd of September, the upcoming 2nd of September. So what does it mean, cutoff date? It means that after this cutoff date, we will evaluate, we will carry out an analysis of all the received application that will allow us to progress and to provide the services to the pre-selected experiments. So keep that in mind. 2nd of September 2024 is the next cutoff date. Why did we decide to have a regular cutoff dates is also to allow experiment provider to better schedule the development of your own payloads, so that you could also apply to the most appropriate cutoff dates and to enhance the flexibility and responsiveness of the overall service. Now, I will then go to, obviously, everything that I'm presenting today is not new, or it's information that is taken from the calls for expression of interest. So everything that you see in the slides can be found in the call text itself that we are updating with the list of launch service providers. So we will update in the upcoming days. So please use the newly updated calls. So for the two parallel calls for expression of interest, what is the eligibility conditions? So the applicants must be legal entities, so natural person or public or private bodies established in an EU member state or countries associated to the Horizon Europe program, or countries which are in ongoing negotiation for an association agreement. For the ready-to-fly satellites, all of this is still valid, but on top of that, because this is a co-funded action with the European Space Agency, the eligibility and the participation is also open to all entities establishing as a member states. So we will see them in the Q&A. We have a dedicated question that was raised by some colleagues before. So what are the constraints and requirements for the experiments needing aggregation, well, very important because we want to really enhance the responsiveness of the service. What we require is that candidate experiments have reached a minimum TRL 5 to 6 at the time of application. And candidate experiments should be compliant with resources and interfaces compatible with small satellite missions or CubeSat satellite missions. And of course, compliance with EU manufactured launcher solution that I anticipated in the slides before, with the launcher solution offered by the 5 launch service provider. And again, an important requirement is that the delivery of the flight model should take place within 1 year following the relevant application cutoff date. Staying in the experiment needing aggregation, going into how does the analysis and selection process work. So again, this is taken from the call text in itself. The first step of the selection process is the analysis of the received application that is based on the 3 criteria that are listed in the call text and that I will present shortly. The analysis of received application is done by a jury of independent experts together with ESA experts. The second step is the pre-selection of the candidate experiment. So all the experiments that have got a minimum threshold will be pre-selected and will go through a pre-selection process. Experiment will be given a priority based on experiments, if the experiment has been developed or funded in the frame of other union or ESA initiative. This really allows us to support also experiment that receive funding from other parts of our Horizon program, for example, the European Innovation Council, or other union programs, for example, the regional or cohesion funds or other types of program, and as well as ESA initiative or ESA programs. And again, application that receive the highest overall score, if there is a case of ex aequo in terms of points and score, the experiment that have received the highest score on the innovation criterion will be given priorities. After this initial pre-selection step, let's say, the experiment that needing aggregation, of course, will undergo as well an accommodation analysis with the view of allocating the highest number of experiments into the IOD IOV project themselves. And after this step, and considering available resources, a list of pre-selected IOD IOV experiments will be established. The final selection for experiment needing aggregation will be confirmed by us, European Commission, only after the successful completion of the system design review that will validate the feasibility of the relevant IOD IOV mission. So this is really the selection process for experiment needing aggregation. Now let's look into the criteria that I said. So the initial analysis, so this is applicable to the first step of the evaluation of the selection process. The 3 analysis criteria are technical fit, programmatic fit, and innovation. So as you see, there is the overall score, the total score is 100 points. And you also see that there are dedicated threshold per criteria and overall threshold. An application must pass both the individual threshold and the overall threshold. Now, looking into specifically each of the criteria, we have the technical fit, criteria number 1, where we will analyze the elements that will be analyzed by the jury is the demonstration of the technology readiness level for the actions to be and for the experiments to be considered for the IOD IOV service, which is, as I said, a required TRL 5 to 6. And of course, the experiment provider are also to substantiate compatibility and complexity of the experiment needing aggregation and how it is in line with interfaces and resources with the CubeSat and SmallSat mission, and also the fact that it has to be a self-standing experiment with simple mechanical, thermal, electrical data. What is the level of complexity if it has to be hosted on spacecraft or hosted on an aggregated mission or rideshare mission? What is the mass, volume, etc.? So these are the elements that are analyzed as part of the technical fit. As part of the programmatic fit, the aspect that will be analyzed is the justification of the need for in-orbit demonstration and validation for the mission in itself, for the experiments, and the justification of programmatic elements linked to risk, planning, funding, what is the development plan, for example, and other aspects, and the compliance with the overall planning for the flight model delivery. And then the last criterion is linked to innovation. So the jury will analyze what is the innovation content and innovation potential of the candidate experiment, and how is the experiment and overall mission of the IOD candidate experiment in line with and relevant with ongoing or future EU ESA activities. So that was the main elements of the experiment needing aggregation. Now let's go into the main elements with the candidate experiments for provided in the form of ready-to-fly IOD, IOV satellites. So I remind you this, the launch services for ready-to-fly IOD, IOV satellites is co-funded with the European Space Agency. And the level of co-funding that we are supporting is for standard launch services. Obviously, we have reported here, which is obviously, as I mentioned, also in the call document in itself. We also ask, in this case, some level of co-funding from the satellite provider only for the entity that are for profit. And in the table here, you see the ceiling price, the ceiling co-funding level that satellite provider are expected to co-fund to. In case obviously the candidate ready-to-fly satellite is a university or a research institute without commercial interest, the funding for launch services from the Union and ESA may rise to 100%. So, as I said, the figures in the table do apply. It's the maximum level of co-funding from for-profit private entity. As said, the constraint and requirements for the ready-to-fly satellite is to be compatible with European launch services that are that will be listed also in the call document that I just presented, offered by the 5 launch service provider, as well as in the case for the experiment needing aggregation, also for ready-to-fly satellites. The delivery of the satellite has to take place within 1 year following the application cutoff dates. And what is also important in terms of requirement is to be compatible with the latest directive on debris mitigation. How does the analysis and selection process work? More or less similar to the experiment needing aggregation, especially for the analysis part. In fact, we carry out the analysis of received application for both calls together, meaning that the received application will be analyzed based on the more or less the same criteria by a jury of independent experts together with other ESA experts. And then after this analysis, all the applications that meet the threshold for each criterion will be considered pre-selected. In this case, also as part of the pre-selection process, we will establish a priority-based system that will be based on innovation that are developed or funded in the frame of Union or ESA programs, as it was the case for the experiment needing aggregation, and in the case of ex aequo as well, the highest the experiment that receive a highest score on the innovation criterion will be given priority. In this case, the final selection of the ready-to-fly satellites will be confirmed considering available resources and also based on flight availability. The way forward for the selection process is really to endeavor to provide a launch service for the selected ready-to-fly satellite within 18 months following the cutoff date of the application. So as you can see, same criteria apply, but the analysis, the elements that will be analyzed are slightly different from the call for experiment needing aggregation, because what we are going to look in the analysis process for technical fit is how the candidate satellite is able to demonstrate the readiness to be considered for the launch service, obviously. Because if we say that it has to be delivered within 1 year following the cutoff date, you know, we need to be able to understand that the candidate satellite is ready. So you will need to demonstrate in the application form your readiness to be considered for the launch service. Again, an important element here is also the substantiation of the compatibility with the European launch services offered by the 5 launch service providers. So how you are compatible with the launch solution offered by the 5 launch service provider needs to be substantiated in the application form. With respect to programmatic fit, this is also the same for experiment needing aggregation. Here we really need to understand why you need in-orbit demonstration service and validation service. So you really need to demonstrate why you are applying and why is it important to achieve the objective of the mission. And also as part of the programmatic fit, there are important elements that we will analyze linked to programmatic, like risk planning, funding, development plan, and other elements. And of course, compliance with overall planning for flight model delivery within 1 year from cutoff date. And similarly to the other call, the innovation potential and content of the experiment and justification of policy relevance with EU and ESA activities. As said before, also for this call, application must pass both the individual and the overall threshold. So minimum score is 60 out of 100 and individual threshold for each criteria. So how does it work with the submission? Please don't forget the cutoff dates. Next one is 2nd of September. The submission of your application needs to be done in English, first of all, important. Needs to be sent by email to the DEFIS IOD IOV functional mailbox before the cutoff date with subject line. You see it here, call for expression of interest if it is IOD IOV experiment or ready to fly satellite, and whatever you want to call your satellites. The application package is composed of 4 parts. Part 1 is the application and compliance matrix that is up to 30 pages document. This is I would say, the most important part of the package, because it will allow us to really carry out the analysis. Okay, so you really need to be careful and explain things in details in the various boxes of the application form. Obviously, paying attention not to exceed the 30 pages max. And then an important part of the application package is also the commitment on flight model delivery, which is a commitment, which is a declaration that we expect from you. For the case of a ready-to-fly satellite, the commitment on flight model delivery is also associated with the commitment on co-funding for flight model delivery if the experiment is also coming from a private entity for profit. Part 3 and Part 4, these are standard documents. We ask for declaration of honor on exclusion criteria and absence of conflict of interest and legal entity form. Please note that in the call document, in the main page, you will also find the application package and all the elements and the links where you can download the various declaration and forms. So just to give you a macro overview on what are the main steps from selection to flight. Again, this is just an indication of how it works. So you know that we have calls, ongoing call for expression of interest that are open from 23 to 26 with regular cutoff dates. The analysis of received application takes place between soon after the call cutoff date and can take up to 4 months. Applicants will be informed on the outcome of the analysis within 6 months after the relevant cutoff dates. In parallel, regular procurement action are performed by our ESA colleagues, and all the actions are published on the ESA Start portal for carrier procurement, for aggregation and operation service, including rideshare opportunities, and launch service procurement through the flight ticket initiative. The IOD IOV experiment, the delivery of the experiment for those that need to be aggregated on a carrier should take place within 1 year following the application. And the same goes for the ready-to-fly satellite. The satellite delivery should take place within 1 year following the application submission. Launch and operation for aggregated experiments should take place soon afterwards. So you see, indicatively, we endeavor to have it within 18 to 24 months, depending also on the, again, on various elements, on the readiness of the aggregated mission, but also on the launcher availability. And the launch services for the ready-to-fly satellites takes place within, we strive to have it within 18 months following the application. Of course, it also very much depends on launcher availability. Okay, so I think this concludes my presentation, and we can officially start the Q&A session. So now I hand on the floor to my colleague, Romain, to take over the Q&A session. Romain.
Thank you, Mavi. So yes, I will introduce some predefined question, and you will be able to write other one if you don't find what you are looking for from the pre-identified question. So question number one, entity from which countries can participate in this call for expression of interest? So as already said, single entity or group of entities from EU member states and associated countries to Horizon Europe can participate in this call. You will have in the link the list of eligible countries, so associated. As of June 24, Horizon Europe associated countries are Albania, Armenia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Faroe Islands, Georgia, Iceland, Israel, Kosovo, Moldova, Montenegro, New Zealand, North Macedonia, Norway, Serbia, Tunisia, Turkey, Ukraine and the UK. Negotiation for association are ongoing for the Canada and Morocco. And for those countries, experiment final selection will be conditional to successful association. On top, for ready-to-fly satellites, all ESA member states, including Switzerland, can participate in this call. Is it possible to have an entity from a third countries as partial contributor to the experiment? As I say, application is open to entity based in EU member state and associated country of Horizon Europe, and for ready-to-fly satellites in ESA member states. However, the application form does not request any details on the IOD IOV experiment industrial organization. So we won't look in detail in the constituent of the application of the experiments. What shall be the experiment provider financial contribution and which detail regarding the funding, so funding amount, funding quota? This call for expression of interest is not a call for proposal that foresees the signature of a grant agreement for the development of your experiment. So providers are expected, are required to fund the development of their own experiment. The Commission provides for free IOD IOV service for experiment needing aggregation. That includes aggregation of the experiment on the carrier, the launch service, and 1 year of operation. And for ready-to-fly satellite, IOD IOV covers the launch service for which a co-funding for standard launch service may be requested by the satellite provider if it's for-profit private entity. So does the funding plan of the applicant for the development of the experiment need to be final at the time of applying? So you will see that as part of the application package, applicant shall submit the declaration on commitment on flight model delivery. Through this, you are declaring that you have all the required funding that will allow you to deliver the experiment in time and in line with your development plan. For ready-to-fly satellites, you are also requested to confirm your ability to co-fund the associated launch service, if applicable, of course. And more detailed information regarding the funding plan of your experiment need to be explained in the application form. Is it possible to apply for software IOD IOV? Can it be integrated? Can it be integrated to the mission? So there is no limitation in the experiment needing IOD IOV service. However, the software needs to be associated to an hardware. So I insist experiment will be self-standing with direct mechanical, thermal, electrical, and data interface with the IOD IOV spacecraft. We already have, I think, two experiments that express their interest to be part of an aggregated mission, but we weren't able to pre-select them because they were not self-standing. That was the main issue. Will you accept an application of other formats than CubeSat or SmallSat mission? So the call does not limit the format of your experimental mission. However, the candidate experiments to be aggregated is expected to comply with resources and interface compatible with CubeSat or SmallSat mission. At the same time, if your experiment does not need to be aggregated on a platform, but just need to a launch service, your experiment qualify as a ready-to-fly satellite without format restriction, provided it is compatible with the European launch solution. Can a platform be considered as an IOD IOV experiment? A platform needing demonstration or validation services can be considered as ready-to-fly IOD IOV satellites, indeed. If a ready-to-fly IOD IOV satellite is proposed in the form of experiment and the host spacecraft, would the cost of the platform of the host spacecraft be covered by the call or only the integration and launch? So if you come with your experiment and the hosted spacecraft, it qualifies for us as a ready-to-fly IOV satellite. So in this case, we cover only the launch service for the in-orbit demonstration. So you will have to fill the right call template. When applying, do we have to add a confirmation letter of the national point of contact? No, this is not needed. The application package is composed of 4 parts. So first, application and compliance matrix. Second, commitment on flight model delivery and launch service crowdfunding in case of ready-to-fly satellites. Part 3, declaration of honor on exclusion criteria and absence of conflict of interest. And the fourth one, legal entity form only. Can research organization express interest and contribute? Yes, of course. The IOD IOV service is broadly open to experiment provider from academia, research organization, SME, startup, large industry, space agencies. There is no limitation on this. Can you tell us more about how the timeline from selection up to launch? So as said, all applicants will be informed of the outcome of the analysis of their application at least 6 months after the relevant cutoff dates. For aggregated IOD IOV experiments, the final selection will be confirmed by the European Commission after the SDR, so System Design Review. After IOD IOV project definition and implementation with the selected experiments, the launch service will be provided as soon as possible based on availability of EU launchers. And for ready-to-fly satellites, final selection will be confirmed considering available resources and based on flight availability. And launch service will take place within 18 months following the application cutoff dates. How can launcher entity participate? So entity active in the access to space domain can submit their application if they need IOD IOV service to test their technology in line with the constraint and requirements and considering available resources. For launch service provision, this is not part of this call for expression of interest, as it will be procured through the COM-ESA flight ticket initiative. And last question, how is the launch service procurement planned? All procurement action as said by Mavi, including the launch service, are done by ESA. And indeed, the objective is to have first procurement. It's the case this year. So, but you will have more detail in the following presentation by our ESA colleague. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Romain. So I think this concludes our presentation. Okay, I see that we have a few questions in the chat. So maybe let's take a couple. Which sustainability requirements are applicable to the IOD IOV satellites themselves, the zero debris charter, FCC requirements, the orbit within 5 years and after end of business? So I would maybe start, and then I will also hand over to the colleagues. So indeed, this is mainly for the well, for both categories, I would say of launch of experiments, both for those needing aggregation, but particularly for the for the ready-to-fly satellites, indeed is the latest debris mitigation directive. I think was published by our ESA colleagues. I don't know if maybe Thilo or Andrea, you can say a couple of words on that.
I can try.
Hi, Thilo. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Thilo Kranz. I'm from ESA and the Space Transportation Directorate, and we are participating to the Flight Ticket Initiative in the Boost program, which is running in ESA Space Transportation Directorate. So on the question, we are obviously looking to embark the, I would say, governing rules on orbital debris that we have been putting forward in Europe, which includes in principle also this Zero Debris Charter and the rules that go along with not leaving orbital debris in orbit after satellite mission is conducted successfully. That means satellite operators would need to make sure that their satellites are not left in orbits that are endangering other satellites' orbits, as well as having very long decay times if these satellites are not actively deorbited. So that is to be expected, and we have in the call documents, I think we have the correct references to which documents to comply with.
Okay, thank you, Thilo, and good morning to you. Let's maybe take another question. So, for the ready-to-fly satellite, IOD satellite, does the payload need to be pre-selected and named in the application before applying? Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question, because the ready-to-fly satellite is an application of a full satellite. So it is the full satellite that needs to be pre-selected. It's not that you apply first as a experiment needing aggregation, and then you apply again for ready-to-fly satellite. So, and this is very important because we've had cases in which applicants have used the wrong application form. Please be careful. We have two parallel calls with two parallel application forms, okay? And as I explained, also the criteria that will be and the elements that will be analyzed pertaining to the specific criteria, especially technical and programmatic, are somehow different if you are applying for an experiment that need to be aggregated on a carrier, or if you are applying for a full satellite just to have a launch service. So you really need to select the correct templates when applying. If you have a full satellite, so you just require a launch service, so you have a payload with the hosted already on a platform, then your experiment qualifies as a ready-to-fly satellite. So it doesn't need to be aggregated again on another platform. So just choose the correct path on ready-to-fly satellite. If your experiment is a component, I don't know, it's an antenna, a receiver, or something that needs to be aggregated on an actual satellite, then your experiment qualifies as a ready-to-fly satellite. As an experiment needing aggregation on a platform. And then if the experiment is pre-selected, we will take care of aggregation, launch service, and operation of the experiment needing aggregation. Okay, as we explained.
If I may, Marie, yes, indeed.
Yes, please, Romain.
If you apply for a ready-to-fly satellite, it includes the payload. So it's the full satellite, including the payload that will be analyzed for selection.
Yes, thank you, Romain. So we have a question, who provides the carrier platform? Is it possible to see the list? Unfortunately, we cannot share the list because the procurement, as you will see later from the presentation, the procurement action are done in parallel. So it cannot be the list of the satellite integrators is not known beforehand. So you will know it only after and if your application will be successful. Okay. Alors, there are a few questions again. How are the carriers for IOD IOV experiment selected? Well, this will come in the next presentation by our ESA colleagues. No, another question is, normally a payload provider has to provide an engineering model before a flight model to ensure the payload integrates correctly with the target platform. Is this also the case in this initiative? I will start and then maybe I will leave also my colleagues to complement Romain, but also Frédéric, feel free to jump in. So the level of information required in the application form, you need to be able to detail all the aspects in the application form. As said, we do not choose the platform and the system integrator before making the actual selection. We do the things in parallel. And sooner it works like that, as we explained. First is the analysis of the received application. Then we will try to accommodate, and this we do it obviously with the support and valuable support of our ESA colleagues. They will try to regroup the list of we'll try to regroup the experiments that need to be aggregated, and we'll do a preliminary feasibility, let's say mission feasibility, that will later have to be done by the satellite integrator to confirm the actual accommodation on their own platform. But what is important for the application form is that you really specify all the requirements that you are going to need in terms of mass, volume, data needs, interfaces, etc. And what do you expect from the carrier, from the satellites that will aggregate your experiments? Romain, do you want it to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Indeed, besides the delivery of the flight model, the experiment provider will have to support for its experiment the integration and testing of the spacecraft, and as required with the platform provider, you may have to provide engineering model and also adaptation to interface requirements. So yes.
Okay, then maybe a question, I don't know, Frédéric, if you can help us with this. can you please explain, in case of the aggregation of an experiment on a carrier, how the interfaces to the carrier are defined? Power, signaling, radio.
Okay, good morning, Frédéric Deston. For the aggregation of experiment on a carrier, so you will see later, we have an ITT which requires potential carriers to have all type of generic interfaces. In your applications to the call, you will specify which interfaces you have. And then when we submit the list of experiments to a carrier, in the accommodations, he will confirm that he can accommodate your interfaces. Sometimes there can be some small adaptations. But this includes power interface, data interfaces, with radio, I'm not sure, because, okay, in any case, until now, when you have to have a self-standing experiment, so I mean, if you want to have a radio interface, you usually come also with your antenna. But for the other ones, power and data, certainly yes.
Thank you, Frédéric. We will do a round of presentation, maybe just before your presentation. Alors, we take the last questions, because I see in the Q&A there are already questions more pertinent for the second, for your presentation on procurement. Alors, so since an experiment only needs to be supplied in 1 year of application, can the experiment have a TRL of 4 with proved planned to reach 6 during that year? So, alors, I'm a bit lost. I think this is for experiment needing aggregation.
I can take this one maybe, because this is related to ISA requirements that you have to be TRL5 at PDR, etc., etc. So 1 year in principle, of course, you have passed PDR. But in the call for experiments, you will also have to provide a schedule where you explain how you will be ready at what time and what is left. So there you can explain that if you're not already, if you're still at TRL4, what are the remaining activities and how you can achieve that in 1 year. So, but you say you can prove that you can still not plan, but you can still reach TRL6 at the end of the year. So there is no strong requirements that you have to be already TRL6 or 5. But the caveat with that, of course, is if then you're not ready on time, well, you will be disembarked. So it is more an assessment than a rule.
Yeah, thank you, Frédéric. So there's another question: is the 1 year operation service mandatory in the frame of IOD IOV? Well, if you don't need operations, I mean, it's I would say it's really up to you. I mean, for the case of aggregated experiments, yes, I mean, it really depends on the objectives of your overall mission. If you just need to prove that you can stay in orbit, of course, you don't have to. Let's say the operation is a standard package that comes with the set of services offered to experiment that need to be aggregated on a carrier, which is not provided for ready-to-fly satellites. So we have another question. If a payload needs a platform, is it mandatory that the platform is shared with other payloads from other organizations? Well, I would say yes, because we will try to, as I also explained, accommodate the highest number of experiments on platforms. We will not, well, we try to avoid having dedicated platform and do procurement just to accommodate one experiment. But as said, if you have your own platform, and a payload accommodated to a platform, you can simply apply to the ready-to-fly satellite, and we will provide a launch service. Okay, so there is a question as a complement to one of the questions that we have. For ready-to-fly satellites, since there is an ESA co-funding, do applicants need to submit a letter of support from their respective national delegation concerning the ESA funding? Okay. There is an important distinction point that needs to be made. But again, my colleagues from ESA will be able to complement on this. But the co-funding will not go to the experiment providers, okay? But the co-funding will go to the launch service provider, okay? So the candidate experiment that submit their application for ready-to-fly satellites do not need to submit any letter of support, okay? Because the co-funding applies to the launch service provider. So to the 5 launch service provider that we have presented. I don't know, Thilo or Andrea, would you like to complete, or is it okay?
I think it would be better to move to our presentation.
Yeah, we can take it after in any case, for sure.
Service providers.
Thilo, we cannot hear you very well. Maybe try to switch off your camera, because
I know this is why. This is why I have asked Andrea to do the presentation,
okay.
because I have bad internet connection.
Okay. But okay, Andrea, you can explain it afterwards. Absolutely, no problem. Yeah. Another question: is there any limitation on geo return for the purpose of the calls for expression of interest? There is no geo return. I mean, this is not at all in the scope. Do the launch services include the testing required? Okay, I maybe let's take the specific question on the launch services at a later stage. Okay, okay, I think we have received to all the, we have covered, I think, all the questions for this part, I think. What are the orbits? What orbits are planned for the cutoff dates you mentioned? Leo, MEO, GEO, yeah. So we do not have specific orbits. We ask you in the application form that I invite you to go and analyze well. We ask you for what are your needs in terms of orbits for the achievement of your own mission. So we really want to hear from you on what are your needs, and then we will try to accommodate the needs of of the missions. But yes, usually traditional orbits, Leo, MEO, GEO. Again, this will also depend on the launcher, the launcher selection. Okay, what else?
There is a question of what is the largest model of a small sat carrier platform? Do you go up to mini-sat scale above 350 kilo? So in the text call, you will see that we have put some guidelines. So small sats in the range of 150 kilo. It's not a strong requirement. However, even if there is no limitation, our limitation is also budgetary. So if you come with a 1-ton satellite, it might not fit to our budget.
Okay, thank you, Romain. We have another question. If an experiment or satellite falls in one of the selection criteria and is not selected, is it possible to apply again at a later cutoff date? Absolutely, yes. In fact, this is what we always invite the unsuccessful applicants. We always send let's say an extract of the application form so that applicants know which elements were not sufficiently described or were weak, if there were weakness or showstoppers, so that you can improve and of course reapply at the next opportunity. So yes, absolutely. Okay, I think we have a few questions that are repeating. Okay, I think maybe let's stop here with the question. We will take other question also for procurement action after the presentation by our ESA colleagues. So colleagues, now I hand over to my colleagues in European Space Agency. So we have Frédéric Teston, our IOD IOV program manager at European Space Agency. And he is joined today, as you have already met the rest of the team, by our colleagues Thilo Krantz and Andrea Tulli from the Space Transportation Directorate. I will hand over to you, Frédéric, so that you can do quick presentation of yourself, and then when you're ready, I will start sharing your presentation. Floor to you.
Good morning. As I said, I'm Frédéric Teston from ESA and from the Technical Directorate, and I'm the Program Manager for this IOD IOV program in ESA. As I think Mavi presented to you, the program is built, in fact, with the selection of experiments and then the implementation of the IOD opportunities themselves. So I will go to and present you what are the current and the next procurements to fly these experiments. And then there will be also presentations on the flight ticket initiative from my colleagues from the Space Transport Directorate. So starting with the flight segment, or if I say the satellites for the IOD experiments, the only problem is I don't see. You're presenting my presentation, maybe, or?
Yes, just one moment. Yes, it's still
okay.
loading.
I'm sorry, because
okay, one second.
I don't see it. Otherwise, I can share, but it will. I don't trust WebEx too much on that.
Can you see it now, Frédéric?
Yeah, now it's coming. Well, I hope the others see it as well.
Voilà.
But I can, yes.
Felix, can you confirm, Romain? Do you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Live.
Yes.
Okay,
Perfectly.
excellent.
So quickly, starting for the role of ESA in this EU IOD services. So we are part, or we support the Commission in the pre-selection of IOD experiment, as Mavi explained. We interface with the pre-selected IOD experiments and have an MOU prepared between them and the carrier for those who are pre-selected. On the other side, this will present you the procurement actions. We implement the IOD project themselves, so the space segment, for the experiments needing aggregations. And also we will see for specific experiments who could go on to a rideshare opportunity. We procure and manage launch services for all these projects through the COM-ESA Flight Ticket Initiative, which is the FTI, and is also shared with some ESA program. And we do the system engineering meaning not only for the carrier, but also doing after the pre-selection of the experiments, understanding the interfaces, the problem of accommodation, etc., and making sure that they are properly accommodated by the carriers. So if we go to the next one, how do we organize the procurements. So as I said, we have 3 types of procurements, but for the aggregation, so we procure the carrier. So we see we have an ITT for the carrier. We procure the launch services for this carrier. And I think there was also the question in the Q&A, and our ITT for the flight segments include, so not the launch services, which are procured by us, but includes up to 1 year of operations. Up to 1 year is, until now, was always 1 year of operations, which is a good balance between being too long and too expensive and being too short, and experiments could not demonstrate what they need to do. So the baseline is indeed 1 year of operations from the selected carrier. So just for those who are a bit familiar, so before we only had the aggregation, so we were procuring full carriers to fly the pre-selected experiments, but we've seen that in order to be more flexible and to improve responsiveness and so on, we will now have a process to procure also rideshare opportunities, meaning we don't procure a full satellite, but we procure a slot if you want an opportunity for an experiment to be flown, and we call it the rideshare, which is not very innovative as a name. For the complete satellites, this is what there was also questions to what is the complete satellite. So the ready to fly, we call him ready to fly DEFIS satellites, is someone who propose a complete satellite, so platform plus payload is selected based on the innovations and the demonstrations he needs to do. And for this one, we provide, the program provides the flight, through the flight ticket initiative, the launch cost. So if you go to the next one, maybe. So now, a bit of the process and the planning. So there is an open call for experiments. And the 12th of July, which is beginning of the week, we have issued a competitive tender. So open competitive tender, meaning it's open to all participants, all member states participating to the IOD IOV program. We will have issued an ITT for the procurement of a CubeSat missions, meaning it's an ITT which specifies that we want to procure a CubeSat, we provide the capacities, and we provide the planning, etc., etc. So this ITT, all the details, now it has been published. When I did the presentation, it was on the way to be published. Now it's published. So if you go on the ESA Star portal, it's a classical ESA ITT. So you will find all the elements and all the details for this procurement. So in short, more or less, it will this ITT will require the development validations of a platform, in that case of CubeSat, which will integrate the experiments. We will see how the loop is closed, and we'll have to provide a volume up to 12U to accommodate the experiments. We will ask, as I said, 1 year of operations. Now the proposals that we receive are evaluated, well, a bit classically as ESA on technical, programmatic, and contractual criteria. Okay, the technical being the standard one of a satellite, plus of course, in that case, as what are the available interfaces, what is the flexibility to be able to accommodate experiments. I think flexibility and versatility to accommodate experiments is part of the criteria for the evaluations. When you will see this in the ITT, you do not have the list of pre-selected experiments, because the process of pre-selection is done in parallel. And what we do is that the winner bid, or the winner will receive the pre-selected list of experiments at negotiation kickoff in order to, in the first phase, do the accommodations of these pre-selected experiments into his carrier. So of course, it has to be optimal or optimized. The pre-selected experiments may be more than what he can accommodate. So this first phase, which in the past has run about 3 months, will allow to finalize interfaces and finalize the accommodations of which pre-selected experiments will become selected because they are compatible with the carrier. And for this, we have a small review, which called System Design Review, which is, in fact, if you want, is all combined PDF of the platform, mission selection, etc., which we have with the bidder to finalize sorry, the configurations of the satellites. The launch services are procured separately, so they're not part of the ITT, and they go through the flight ticket initiative, which will be presented by Thilo a bit later. So this is for the aggregated mission. So there was maybe sometimes it's confusing. So the aggregated mission in that case is to procure a satellite which will fly pre-selected experiments. So you apply to the call, you propose experiment. So there was questions about the propulsion. Indeed, we have already flown several new propulsions. So you propose an experiment. If it's pre-selected, is accommodated on one of these, one on satellite, which is selected through this ITT process and then flown and operated for 1 year. So this is for the complete, if you want, the aggregated missions. Now, as I said, in between matching the exact number of pre-selected experiments with the number of carrier we have, and sometimes some pre-selected experiments are a bit larger. So, you know, if they take all the room, and we have decided to try to improve the versatility and the timeliness of this IOD IOV by initiating a rideshare services, which is for which the first ITT will come out in the third quarter, so end of the summer probably. So this will be a bit the same setup. So we will, but in that we will selected rideshare service providers. So we will first have an ITT for who is providing in the community rideshare services, and in that case we will also provide the first little experiments which have been left non-accommodated for the time being. So out of this, we will select a pool of rideshare service providers, a bit like we have a pool of launch service providers, which are companies who provide opportunities for experiments to be flown. And then for each of the experiments selected, we will issue a work order where which we will tender between the selected rideshare service providers, and then select who will identify the winner to fly the experiments. So this is the same thing. So the work orders will specify, of course, the experiments, and will ask for the flight and for a priori 1 year of operation of the experiments, including, of course, data return to the experiment. So in this way, we will first selected providers, and they will sign what we call a frame contract with ESA to enter into the pool of European rideshare services. As we already have in that first step, you will have also 4 work orders. So then the guys will reply for the frame contract if they are selected from the frame contract, and they've also bid for the work order. So we will select up to 4 work orders for experiments. This will be tendered, as I said, end of July, and of course the work order process will be repeated in the future if we have further needs to provide rideshare for some experiments. So this is new services which is added to the aggregated to the complete system. Just to be a bit more clearer on how we will do for the frame contract. So the ITT is not issued yet, but we will need to select a participant to the frame contract, looking at what is the available opportunity they have. So if they have one opportunity in 20 years, or if they have regular one, the type of opportunity, so which size, which volume, which etc., which accommodations, a technical characteristic of the opportunity, interfaces, etc. The programmatic also, how they will implement the experiments. So I think someone was asking before about the engineering model, so all these things, and of course also the price for the pricing for this opportunity. And we will, as it's a frame contract, and then we'll tender only work orders, we will have a rideshare service agreement, a typical one, which will be the one which will be implemented for the selected experiments between the frame contractor and the experiments. We will select up to 10 rideshare service providers. So there will be an ITT, and up to 10 providers will be selected, of course, depending on the selections and the marking. So I just added a point, which I think is an important one. So I think the same we have for the FTI and so on. So the rideshare opportunity, I read it, shall be based on EU solutions, both for the spacecraft and for the launch services. So in that case, we procure if you want to, not the satellites, but we procure an opportunity, but this opportunity has to be on a satellite which use solutions for the launch. Okay, I think the second part explained a bit better what we called EU solutions for launch services. So, but just wanted to draw your attention on that point, which may be important one. If you go to the next one. So as we said, once we have this pool of rideshare services for this pre-selected experiments that we have earmarked to look for a rideshare service, they will be, of course, specified, and we will have to find a way that a rideshare which is compatible in terms of technical interfaces and programmatic elements, so exchange of models, planning, etc. So the selections because you may have more than one rideshare service providers which bid for this specific work orders. The selections will be based on technical criteria, so the interface compatibility, environmental loads, integrations, but also programmatic, meaning price, date, and compliance with the rideshare agreement. Once for this work order, there is a winner from the pool. The selected rideshare providers will enter into negotiation with the experiments in order to finalize the rideshare service agreement. I mean, the details, the EAV is always in the details, so they will iron out a bit like on the aggregates. They will iron out the interfaces, the development plan, etc., between the experiments and the rideshare providers. And if they achieve an agreement, or if they reach an agreement, then this will be part of the work order, which will sign with you or with the rideshare provider. So that's the way it will be implemented, and this will be, as we said, tendered third quarter of this year. The next one. Just for completeness, but okay, this may be a repeat if it's also provided. So we say that we tender all our launch services through the FTI. However, there was already two launch services which were tendered in the past for the two small sats selected in the IOD IOV initiatives, and for various reasons, we'll have to reissue this tender. So, and I think they will be also issued in the coming days. So there will be two ITT, fully open ITT for two launch services for the two IOD IOV small sat missions called Projects 1.1 and Projects 1.2. They are small sat going into LEO, one around 150, the other one about 200 something. And this will be also published through the Star portal, so you can find all details and all information about this one. Thilo, I apologize if it was part of your presentation as well, but in that case, I just presented it here for lack of completeness. So these are all the procurements which are in the near future, for one already open for the CubeSats, for the other one which will be out, let's say, during the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Frederic. Maybe we hand over to colleagues in space transportation. Andrea, are you going to present?
Yeah, I'm going
Yes.
to present.
Please, floor is yours.
Just a quick introduction. I am Andrea Tulli. I am working as a launch service manager in the Directorate of Space Transportation System, together with my colleague Thilo, who introduced himself before. We are, watching the flight ticket initiative. If you can go to the next slide, Mavi. Okay, we repeat here some of the things that colleagues have already expressed, but as you know, repetita iuvant. So we are pretty much responsible for the part on the right of this slide. So as you know, the flight ticket initiative is a cooperation between the European Commission and ESA. The colleagues have talked extensively about the selection of the satellite operators, which is let's say the left part of the slide. In our case, we said we support the early commercialization of European launch vehicles. So our focus is more on the fact that we will have to provide a service for launch. You can go to the next slide. Okay, so we had an ITT to select the launch service provider at the beginning of 2024. And as a result of this competitive process, we have selected these 5 companies that you see here in the slide. And so we have a British one, Orbex, a Spanish one, PLD Space, 2 Germans like Kaiser Aerospace and RFA, and we have the, let's say, the incumbent, which is let's say Ariane Space, with mostly so far is Viga, so is the one on the left. But as you know, we have been successfully launching this week Ariane 6, so we never know for the next contract. These rockets, beside Vega C that has been already launched, but all these rockets are on the left side are in development actually. So we expect that they will be qualified between end of this year and early 2025. And in any case, they will be qualified for your mission. So you're not gonna be, let's say, the guinea pig for testing these rockets. We expect them to be fully qualified when we offer the service. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Okay, so this slide is a little bit, related to these 5 launch service providers that we were talking about. So what happens? We follow the cutoff date that you have seen and that the colleague mentions for the IOD, IOV, ready-to-flight satellite mostly. So every time that there is a ready-to-flight satellite that is selected, the European Commission passes the ball to us, and we establish an ITT process with these 5 companies. And through a competitive process, we assign the launch service to one of these 5 selected launch service providers. So if you go to the next slide, I think there is a process in explain a little bit. Okay, so we have this one, yes. So the contractual framework that we have so far is, let's say, summarized in this slide. So we have with the launch service provider, which is one of the 5 companies we have just presented, we established with that a framework contract. So the framework contract is, let's say, the hat in which all of these launch services will be purchased. This is a new way of procuring things for ESA, because you have to imagine that ESA was, let's say, historically used to procure its own missions. So we were launching ESA mission on a ESA launcher. So this is a completely new way of doing things for us. So we established this framework contract with this launch service provider, and then for each of let's say for each of the satellite operators that we selected through the IOD, IOV ready-to-flight satellite, we will assign to the launch service provider in blue a work order. The work order will include as an annex a launch service agreement, which is a direct negotiation between the launch service provider and the satellite operator. So in our, let's say, the order to the launch service provider, we will pretty much use as an annex the direct negotiation between the satellite operators and the service provider. And I was saying this is a completely new way of doing things, because ESA will not enter in direct negotiation for the launch service agreement. We will just receive it and attach it to the work order. Of course, this document have a minimum set of things that we expect, but we give a pretty, a large flexibility for the negotiation of the parts. Okay, I explained the process. So if we go to the next slide. Yes, as for my colleague already explained, we go through the ITT, and these ITT are published on our portal, which is a STAR portal. We will distribute these slides, so you will have in any case, the links. The program that me and Tila are working on is called BOOST. It's a program of the Directorate of Space Transportation in ESA. And of course, you are free to contact us anytime should you have more information. I think I finished my presentation here, so thank you very much. And of course, we can go to the questions.
Indeed, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Andrea, and thanks a lot to Frederic as well. So again, we can reopen the questions. So, hello. Let's see, because we have received a number of questions in the meantime. So let's start with some of them. I'll start with the last one. Is it correct that the whole ESA part of the program is funded within Boost Launcher Directorate?
It's
the share, I guess. So they mean the share of the co-funded part of the co-funding scheme for the flight tickets. Indeed, right? It comes from the element 3.
Yes.
correct. I mean, the boost is the boost subvention is for the launch service provider. So
Yes.
we are gonna, yes, it's not directly linked to the, let's say, the satellite operators, but we are gonna finance the launch through this work order that I was showing in my slide. And you know, the contribution is directed toward the launch service, one of the 5 companies that we presented. So Orbex, PLD, etc.
And with the boost rules, not within the boost perimeter and rules as well. So your program rules apply for that part.
Yeah.
For the co-funded part, yes.
Yes.
So, and in fact, there was a question before, Andrea, do the staying in the launch service procurement co-funded part of flight ticket initiative, do candidates, do these 5 selected launch service provider need to also have a letter of support?
Correct. But this is not, we are not requesting the letter of support to the satellite provider.
The 5, we're talking about the 5 launch service provider. Do they need to provide the letter of support?
Correct, yes.
Yes.
Because we are using national funding, so they need to provide a letter of support.
Okay. Great, thank you. So there is a question, I don't know, maybe Frederic, you can take it. Is launcher procurement for launch of the satellite to be taken care within the rideshare ITT?
Well, okay, but there was one in between. Okay, the launcher procurement
yes.
for launch of the satellite be taken care within the rideshare ITT. Oh, well, I mean, the rideshare will be for a cost. You will provide the price for the flight, and this is up to you to include to provide these services. Now, I have the impression that I understand the question saying that we provide the rideshare and at the same time we apply for the flight ticket initiative. If that's the questions, I mean, there are 2 different processes. You have to provide the rideshare. This is one thing. You can always apply to the flight ticket initiative, but this you'll be selected depending on the conditions of this one. So when you will quote at the end, when you will quote the rideshare for these experiments, it is all included. So you will say it will cost you so much to accommodate the experiments, launch it, and operate it for 1 year.
So just to clarify, the rideshare opportunity, it's a separate approach. If you are selected and if you basically place your own bid for the rideshare procurement, the rideshare provides the 3 services. So aggregation, launch services, and operation. So it's not that the rideshare opportunity only serves the aggregation and operation. No, you really need to provide the entirety of the 3 services. So this is the distinction to be made. So there is a, yeah.
We skip the 1 year of operations. No?
Yeah, exactly. We can take that one. So 1 year of operation means ESA will provide ground station services. Are there any limits or requirements with communication frequencies, with regard to communication frequencies?
No, the operations are part of the ITT and the contract, so it is the bidder who organized and procured operation ground station services, and when he in his proposal explain how we'll operate the satellites from 1 year. There is no undertakings from ESA to provide ground station services. Of course, you can also get a bid or a bid from ESA ground stations, but this is part of it's in the contract. It is your responsibility to perform the 1 year operations. There is no. It can be done with Leaf, whatever, Amazon, whoever. Well, Amazon is not really European. They can be done with whoever you want, even without the ESA ground station.
Okay, thank you, Frederic. There's another question. The total volume for all experiments on the selected carrier is 12 units, or for each experiment there is a volume of 12 units available?
Total.
Total, yes, exactly. So,
and if the maximum size of IOD of experiments can be 12U, in fact, and this is exactly where we have the right here now, is that when you in the call for experiments, some experiments are a bit larger, or for the aggregations on the carrier, and this is also the one where we will look for a right share. But in the pre-selected, in the list of pre-selected experiments, you will get, if you're the selected aggregated services, you can have, yes, we can have in principle 1 or 15 or 50 experiments, depending on the volume of each of them and the overall volume. Yes. So yes, it's not excluded that you have a 12U experiment.
Exactly, exactly. It's important. So if your experiment is bigger than 12U, you are still eligible as a payload provider, right? As an experiment provider. So these are the specifications for procurement actions for those companies that will be providing the services themselves. So it does not really apply to the experiment providers.
But if for the ITT, you will see, you will not provide the satellites which can accommodate X times 12U. It will be the satellites which have an overall volume of 12U as a baseline.
Yes, but the two tracks are separate. So the procurement action is a parallel track to the selection of the experiments. This is all I wanted to clarify. So I think the rideshare service ITT, you already mentioned that it will be published, yes, after the summer break. Indicatively, we're still finalizing some important elements. So there's another question: is the pool of rideshare service similar to procurement of CubeSat? Can a CubeSat manufacturer apply for this tender?
Yes, certainly. Yes, if you have if you fly many CubeSats or CubeSat in the coming years, where you want to offer an opportunity for an experiment to go on board as a rideshare, yes, you can apply to the rideshare services, explaining which opportunity will provide, and again, technical description, cost, etc. It is not exclusive.
So this also linked to another question before. Can we apply to both the aggregated mission ITT and the rideshare service ITT?
Yes, but I don't think you can apply to the aggregated mission, saying that in addition, then you will on top charge for apply to the rideshares to get the rideshare services, because if you are selected for the aggregated, the list of experiments will come from us. And will in principle fill up the satellites. So yes, you can apply to both, but don't combine both, saying we offer you the missions, but in addition, we can bid for the rideshare services with the same satellites. No.
Excellent, thanks a lot. How many tenders are intended to be selected within this ITT? Well, there are a number of ITTs, first of all. So there is a CubeSat for aggregated mission that will be issued, and the rideshare ITTs.
So the CubeSat ITT, I think like the previous one, it is in principle for one, but with the possibility to have a parallel contract in case of a very large number of experiments and so on. So it can be up to 2. For the rideshare, it is 10 for the frame contract, up to 10. And for specific work orders, there will be one winner, but of course, as we saw, there is a need sometimes to finalize the things. So we will select one, but in case there is no agreement between the selected one in the experiments, if there are others which were also judged good, we will go to the second best.
So okay, there may be more than one now. I mean, because we have identified already a number of rideshare of experiment that need a rideshare opportunity. So it may be one, but maybe even more than one winner.
No, but for each of them,
for the work order, for each of them,
winner.
voila.
Yeah.
For each of the work order, there will be one winner, of course. Yes.
And
Okay.
possible
And
backup.
possible backup. Yes, exactly. Okay, so what is, I guess you already what is the timeline for the selection of the CubeSat for this procurement after the cutoff? So
I think this one, to be honest, it was published beginning of the week. I don't have it in mind, but if you go on ISASTAR, you will have all the details on the time of submission of the proposals and the process. Yes.
okay, let's see what else. Does the tender for this ITT should include cost of development of 12U CubeSat or also the deployer?
I think this was a similar question to the previous one for the
Yeah.
deployer. In principle, deployer is part of the launch services. Okay, Thilo, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ITT is without the deployer, so it's really for the spacecraft.
Okay, I think so. We're going back to the previous question that remain not answered. Alors, so you already addressed partly that one, Frédéric, on the low-cost liquid propulsion system integrated into a low-cost kick stage for smallsat CubeSat.
The answer is yes, and well, everybody's looking.
Can you confirm it's an experiment?
Yeah. Yes, it can fit perfectly into the call for experiments. Yes.
Voila. So for an experiment needing aggregation, can we express preference for orbit altitude? Yes, I would
You will see the call. I mean, in the call, I think it's there is even a subsection which is called preferred orbit, etc. But of course, if you come with a very bizarre orbit where there is one launch opportunity every 10 years, it will, well, it may fail short then afterwards. But in principle, yes, you can, within the, let's say, the reasonable or the most common one, yes.
Okay, I think we have a question for maybe Andrea. If ready-to-fly satellites already include the platform and payloads, how can platform manufacturer make themselves known selected? And how are the platform recurring costs supported by the program? Ah, no, sorry, it's not for.
No, I mean, this ready-to-fly satellite means we don't pay. Well, the program doesn't pay anything for the satellites. It just pays for the launch opportunity. So it is up to you to come with proposing a platform, a payload, a complete spacecraft, and the subvention, say the cost covered is only the launch opportunities, launch services. It is not the platform or the payload. Right, Marie?
Yes, yes, indeed. Thank you. Okay. There is another question that we didn't address before. For ready-to-fly satellite, only launch costs would be covered by the program, and a private entity is required to co-fund a part of launch cost in addition to the whole cost of production of the satellite up to the figures presented in the table. Is my understanding correct? Yes, your understanding is correct. Okay. Alors, do we have? I think we had another. I think I don't see any other questions that we did not address before. Colleagues, please feel free to jump in.
Do we address the one on deployable structure? The question was, in the case that an experiment, e.g. a deployable structure, require a camera for deployment demonstration, will this be covered by the contract between ESA and the ready-to-fly satellite? If your experiment is a deployable structure, it should be it will need to be aggregated, and if it's aggregated, it should be self-standing. So if you need a camera to control the deployment, you will have to provide the camera.
Okay, thank you, Romain. I think we have another couple of questions linked to launch services. So do the launch services include the testing required by the launch provider, e.g. vibration test, or does that need to be covered by the applicant?
I mean, environmental testing remains responsibility of the applicant to demonstrate that he's qualified for the launcher. This is not covered by the launch services. Of course, what is covered by the launch services is sometimes if you have feed checks or whatever with the launch separations when the launch authority comes to your facility, this will be part of the launch services. But for the satellite itself, up to qualifications, this remains the responsibility of the satellite, and it's not included in the launch services. Thilo?
Thilo, Andrea, maybe okay for you?
No, I'm listening. This is correct.
Okay. Is the cost of the dispenser covered by ready-to-fly satellite IOD IOV opportunity? I think we already addressed this.
There is a question, do we need to be in a consortium to apply for CubeSat procurement?
Voilà.
Can single company apply for this procurement? Indeed, there is no limitation on form of company. So either consortium, single entity can apply.
There is a specific question on limitation of geo return. Is there any limitation of geo return? So for the part funded, I mean, IOD IOV, it's first and foremost an EU program. Therefore, there is no application of geo-return and no principle of geo-return that is applied to EU funded actions. So, but as you know, that there is a level of co-funding that from the ESA boost. So maybe Andrea, if you can explain if there is any limitation of geo-return.
Well, as I was saying, we are using funds that are, ESA works with the geo-return principle. So with the 5 companies that we were talking, the launch service provider, we have to apply the geo-return, which means that we will have to use the, let's say, in order to be selected, these 5 companies, the nation behind these 5 companies, they have to put money in the program. So under this point of view, yeah, there is a geo-return, but it doesn't apply to the satellite provider. This is just between us and the launch service providers at this stage.
This is not, just to complement maybe a question, this is not impacting the procurement of launch service for the IOD IOV service.
No. This is something, I mean, in any case, it doesn't relate to the to the satellite provider. It relates to the launch service provider. So in this case, for the guys applying to the IOD IOV, they're not concerned by this.
Okay, now it's published. You see for the CubeSat ITT that there is no geo-return requirements in the ITT. So this answer for the CubeSat one. For the rideshare, it will be the same. There will be no geo-return requirement, except the rules of the program for the European participation, of course. But no geo-return figures. No. Maybe we take the last.
Yes, there are a few other questions, newly added ones. So could you please clarify if one should apply both to the call of interest on the website and to the ITT on ESA? But this really depends on what is your role. If you are a launch service provider, and then you of those 5 that Andrea presented, then you don't need to obviously apply to the call for the selection of the experiment, because you provide a launch service. So you need to apply to the ESA procurement action. Or if you are a satellite integrator that is capable of either aggregating payloads on your satellite or offering rideshare opportunities, well, you need to apply directly to the ESA Star portal for the provision of IOD IOV services. On the other hand, those entities could be companies, research entities, academia, and so on, that have a mission, that have developed a component, a satellite, an antenna, you name it, that needs to be validated in orbit, need to apply to the call for expression of interest, because they will be the ultimate beneficiaries from the services, the 3 services of aggregation, launch services, and operation. So it's really up to you. It depends on what you need. If you are needing this service, or if you are offering this service. If you need this service, you apply to the calls. If you are offering IOD IOV service, you apply to the procurement action.
Probably one of the things that I wanted to clarify, it was part of the slide on the process, is that we receive in the flight ticket initiative as input the satellite. So my input is the satellite that have been ready to fly satellite that have been selected by the European Union call, and these are my inputs. On the base of these inputs, I need to find the launch service provider among the 5 that we presented in order to fulfill the launch service. So a little bit to clarify. So I mean, you don't have to apply directly to the to us. In this case, I receive as input of my process the selected satellites from the call of the European Commission.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Andrea. There is another question: is CubeSat procurement fully funded, or the companies have to invest some fund too? CubeSat procurement is fully funded.
Yeah, there is no co-funding requirement.
No. The co-funding applies to the experiment provider, once again, to those that need the service. So for procurement, we are procuring the full service, the entirety. Okay.
The next one, I'm afraid now the ITT is published, so you have to submit your clarifications request via ISA Star. There is a formal process because now it's published.
Yeah, the question, just for the audience, I guess you're referring to the question.
Oh, sorry, I'm reading but not saying the question, sorry.
Yeah,
Can
please.
I contact detail email of the person responsible for CubeSat procurement ITT for clarification of some questions before submitting the tender applications? Yes, you can get clarifications, but now it's on ISA Star and you will have all the contacts, how you should submit the clarification request, and then you will be answered, of course.
Then there is a question on what is the approximate kickoff month for the selected CubeSat platform provider for CubeSat procurement ITT.
Huh. That's it depends on the experiment and so on. A month. I hope you don't ask for a day. So the month.
But I would say Q4.
Toward the end of Q4, probably.
Yeah, Q4 of this year, I would say. Okay, I think we got them all.
So is a tender for procurement of 12U CubeSat, or a 12U is the payload volume required from the CubeSat platform?
I think this is a question recurrent that we have also.
Yeah, exactly. We already got it.
Okay, consider that is 12U total. That means that in the 12U you can have a part of it which is used by your platform. I guess this is the question which is behind it, yes.
Okay, I think we have
There is a new one.
responded to.
The database on it.
Yeah, but okay, it's not an actual question, I guess. Yeah. So there is a question that is being asked again. So there is an applicant that is developing an innovative low-cost liquid propulsion system integrated into a low-cost kick stage for small sat, CubeSat. And they need help to identify both a passenger for a kick stage and a launcher. Would you please confirm that it is considered as an IOD, IOV experiment needing aggregation?
Okay, I understood it was propulsions in the satellites. Now I understand
Yes.
it's something separate, a kick stage. It's a very good question. So I mean, if it's a kick stage, you attach in between the launcher, I suppose, and the satellite. Don't have a straight. I don't have an immediate answer because the ITT for the CubeSat doesn't. Well, it's not. This is not relevant to that part because it will be more an experiments which come on top, and we should have a launcher in the launch services foresee to have an intermediate stage, I suppose.
I would maybe suggest the applicant to send an email to DEFIS IOD IOV functional mailbox with all necessary information, and we will get back to you in writing. So if you could please clarify all the elements, because it's difficult to take that live. It's a complex element that we need to analyze. We need a bit more time.
But you can certainly apply anywhere as an experiment explaining what it is, because in parallel we can understand, but you can submit it as an experiment. This doesn't prevent it.
Okay, so
as an experiment, or maybe as a ready-to-fly satellite, if it's come with the kick stage.
If you find the satellites, yes, this is correct. Yeah. Yes, even better.
I think we have a final one for the experiments. Are costs for launch preparation, on-site integration, travel costs, etc., covered by the funding? So if you are an experiment provider, you do not get any funding, okay? As we explained before, you get a service, which for experiment needing aggregation is aggregation, launch service, and operation. So you don't get any funding that cover travel costs or launch preparation, etc. Everything is provided as a package. You are a beneficiary of a service. You don't get, there is no grant agreement signed between commissioner and the experiment provider. Voila. So we will, as said, we will publish this this video. I think we have consumed all the questions that we got. So thank you very much. We will stop here with the Q&A session. First of all, I'd like to thank my colleagues, Romain, Frédéric, Andrea, Thilo, for joining us and actively participating to this webinar. We got, I think, a good level of participation, as well as very good questions. As said, the meeting, this webinar has been recorded and will be made available to all of you if you wish to refresh your memory on what has been widely discussed this morning, and also for future references. Unless my colleagues would like to add some final remarks, I think we can close the meeting today.
Yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you to all the attendees. And I think we're good, well on time for the wishing you a very good rest of the day.
Thank you very
Thanks a
much.
lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.